What is up, YouTube? It is Docky or Docky Style Gaming, and I am back at it again with another Godfall video for you all today. Now, I have been out of town for these past couple of weeks, so there wasn't any uploads on the channel, but while I was out of town, I was going through a couple threads and some Godfall Reddit posts just to see what some people were interested in, because I typically like to do that so I can know what type of videos I want to put on the channel so that I can keep some of the Godfall fans informed. And one of the questions that I saw come up on Reddit a few times were the weapons in the game. So while I was out of town, I still managed to go through and scour every Godfall video that has been posted, both from the official Godfall site and some of the Japanese information from interviews and things like that, and I gathered every weapon that we have seen in Godfall. And surprisingly, I got a pretty decent chunk of them. I actually got 1/4 of the weapons that'll be in the game. Now, as I mentioned in an older video, they said that there's going to be 125 weapons in the game at launch, because they're going for more quality over quantity. And considering that every weapon can be leveled up to max rank, I thought it was important to still go over every weapon in the game, even the ones that drop as commons or uncommons or rares, because eventually, if you want to, you'll be able to make them a legendary weapon. So in this video, we're going to be going over 30 plus weapons that'll be in Godfall at launch. Now, initially this video was supposed to drop yesterday, but I know Godfall's content cycle, whenever they want to drop some new information, it's generally on a Tuesday, and I'm glad I waited for today, because sure enough, like clockwork, Godfall's official Twitter posted a new video, and lo and behold, it was a weapon video, so I was able to put that in this video as well. So along with all the weapons in the game, we'll also be getting some exclusive looks at some of the signature weapons that each of the Valor plates will have as well. Considering there's 12 Valor plates, that means there's 12 signature weapons, but there's also some weapons that are tied to certain characters in the game, which I'll get to a little later on in the video. But without wasting any more of your time, let's actually hop into all of the weapons that we know of so far in Godfall. And the first weapon we're going to start off with is the starter weapon, and it is called the Needle, and it is a physical damage dealing longsword in the game. Just about everybody who we've got to see play this game from the tutorial, this is the weapon that you essentially use at the start of the game. Another weapon we got to look at a few times was called the Gavel, and it is a void warhammer. Next, we got to look at the Faithful, which is a fired elemental polearm. Another weapon we got to see a few times as well was the Chisel, and it is a physical damage longsword. We actually got to see this one drop pretty often, but definitely drops the different stats. Some of the newer weapons we got to see recently was the Carapace Blade, which is a water elemental greatsword, and honestly kind of fits perfectly with Aegis Horn in my opinion. The design, Carapace, him being a crab, I personally just think it looks great with Aegis Horn. Next, we got to look at the Nightblade, which is a fire elemental greatsword. Then we got to look at the Harmonic Blade, both through the in-game menu and through some 4K footage that was dropped a couple months ago. Next, we got to look at the Conviction, which were these pair of physical damage dual blades that just about everybody in the Japanese footage managed to obtain, so we got a bit of gameplay on those as well. Another weapon we got to see in that Japanese footage was the Earth Hammer, which is a ground or earth elemental warhammer in the game. Another warhammer that we got to check out was called Shatter Plate, which is a physical damage warhammer. After that, we actually got this interesting ruin-like weapon called the Hacker, and it is a physical damage longsword. Next, we got to look at the Resonant Sledgehammer, which is a ground or earth elemental warhammer. Now, I say ground because technically the Japanese translation translates it to ground, but I believe it's earth in the official American translation, if I'm not mistaken. Another weapon we got to look at was called the Silvermane, which is a earth elemental greatsword. And then moving on to the last two non-legendary weapons that we got to look at was the Fallacious longsword, which is a physical damage longsword. And then we got a very brief look at just the icon for the Jade Sliver water elemental dual blades. So all of those weapons are essentially the non-legendary weapons that we've got to see so far up until this point in the game. Now, personally, something I'm hoping to see with the non-legendary weapons in the game, along with their stats being able to be re-rolled, I'm hoping that their elemental damages can be re-rolled as well. I think it'd be pretty cool and add to a bit more variety when it comes to builds as well, and give you a bit more reason to farm, not just for stat numbers, but for elemental combinations as well. But now let's move over to the legendary weapons that we gotta look at in the game as well, and we gotta look at about 15 of them also. Now, when it comes to the legendary weapons, these I am perfectly fine with them having fixed elemental stats and even some fixed stats as well. Definitely some things that you can re-roll, but similar to exotics in Destiny or some higher legendary weapons in other looter shooters, I feel like the main stats should essentially be the same. So if the elemental stats were fixed on these weapons, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Just have some of the damage numbers or percentages be the things that can be re-rolled and tweaked when you're farming for these weapons. But the first of the new legendary weapons that we got to look at was called the Storm Flares, which are these air elemental dual blades that actually look pretty sick, and I believe we actually got to look at them even before we got some footage for it. We got to look at them with the pre-order bonuses because it said that there was a gold weapon pack, and the Storm Flares were a part of that gold weapon pack. Next, we got to look at a weapon called the Easel Sable Longsword, which is a void elemental longsword. Now, void's also one of those elements we haven't got to see much of in the game. Even when it comes to some of the Valorplate's abilities, we do know that there is an element called Curse, which could potentially be tied to this void element. But as of right now, we don't know how that status actually works in the game. Next, we got a weapon called the Fire of Hate, which is a fire elemental greatsword. It's actually called something else, but I'm not even going to try and butcher that name. The next legendary weapon we got to look at is actually pretty interesting because it's called Ravenous Crescent Glade. Now, what's interesting about this is that Ravenous is the name of the character that's currently in the Phoenix Valorplate in the gameplay. As I've mentioned in some of the story breakdowns, when we got some of the dialogue options from the Japanese gameplay, we know that the chick that's inside the female Valorplate's name is Ravenous, and one of the weapons that you'll be able to obtain, legendary weapons in fact, is called Ravenous Crescent Glade, which looks to be a polearm weapon in the game. Now, the next legendary weapon we got to look at is called the Mountain-Born Breaker. Now, what's interesting about this weapon is that it seems to be the signature weapon for Mesa. It has the two ram-like heads on both ends, and the color palette matches the exact same color scheme as the Mesa Valorplate as well. Now, I'll get a bit more into some of the signature weapons when I get to that section, but I did want to point that out because we got a better look at it in a few different shots. Now, these next 5 weapons we didn't get stats on, but we've got videos that have dropped for all of them, so we still got a pretty decent 360 look at every single one of these weapons. Now, the first of these weapons is the Eclipse, which is the very first weapon we ever got to see with the GodFall Game Awards trailer. And though we don't have any specific stats for it, clearly it appears to be a fire elemental longsword, and seems like it might play an important role in the game. We've seen it in a lot of the trailers and even the cinematic trailers, so I'm kind of curious to see what the Eclipse actually does in the game. And even though I always bring this up, and I actually kind of meant to bring it up earlier, it looks like the Infinity Blade from the game Infinity Blade. A lot of these weapons names are very Infinity Blade like, and even some of them are the exact same names as weapons from Infinity Blade, like Chisel, Gavel, and I believe even Hacker to an extent. And Brandon Sanderson, the person who they got a lot of their inspiration from, they said, for building this world, also wrote both of the books for the Infinity Blade games, which is another fantasy knight-like slasher-based game that has a bunch of blocks, parrying, and dodges in that game as well. The more I see about this game, the more I start to like it because, as I've mentioned before, Infinity Blade is one of my favorite games of all time, story-wise and gameplay-wise as well in terms of content, and GodFall makes me think that it's a next-gen Infinity Blade, and I am so down for that. But getting back on topic, the next legendary weapon we got a video for was the Twin Omens, which is a fire-based warhammer. Now, we've seen this in multiple trailers, we've got to see it in action in some of the gameplay trailers as well, but sadly no full set of stats on it right now. The next legendary weapon we got a video for was called the Winter's Call. It is a ice-based polearm, and that's all we got on that so far. Now, this next weapon is actually the weapon that just dropped today, which again is why I'm glad I waited to post this video today, because I know GodFall likes dropping something new on Tuesdays. But in today's weapon video, we got a look at the Retribution. Now, we don't know what element it's supposed to be, but we do know that it is a greatsword. We've got to see it in the cinematic trailer, and it's actually a weapon that one of the Judicators use in the game as well. So it's interesting that it's also an enemy's weapon, but we'll also be able to acquire it and play with it as well in the game. Now, the last weapon we got a video for is the pre-order bonus weapon, which is Zero's Sword from Borderlands, and it is a long sword, but we don't currently know what element it's supposed to be. It potentially is physical damage, but by the glow it could also be ice, but again, we currently don't have any stats on it, and we don't know if it's in fact going to be a legendary sword right now, but part of me believes that it might be. It seems like most of the trailers that they drop are for legendary weapons in the game, and I have a strong feeling that this weapon might be legendary. So those are all all the legendary weapons we've got looks at, both stat-wise, video-wise, and gameplay-wise. But now let's move over to something that I haven't seen anybody point out about the weapons, and it's the Valorplate's signature weapons. Now, as I mentioned earlier with the Mountain-Born Breaker, that clearly appears to be Mesa's signature weapon. Again, it has the matching color scheme for the Valorplate and the ram heads on it as well. Now, the next signature weapon we gotta look at, we got to see multiple times in both promotional images and the cinematic trailer The Fall, but we gotta look at a sword. I'm assuming it might be a gray sword because it appears to be a two-handed sword, but we did get a look at Hinterclaw's signature weapon, which also has a wolf on the guard of the sword as well. Now, similarly to Hinterclaw, we gotta look at Silvermane's signature weapon as well in the cinematic trailer The Fall, which appears to be a long sword with both a lion on the guard and pommel of that sword. Now, moving over to the concept art, we got a look at 3 more signature weapons for Valorplates. We got to look at Phoenix and her signature longsword, which has clearly Phoenix inspired wings on it. We got to look at the new female Valorplate that has female faces all over that longsword. And then the last one we got to look at was for the peacock inspired Valorplate, which has a flaming longsword, which is pretty interesting and might be the Valorplate known as Sirius. Of the last 3 remaining unnamed Valorplates, I feel like this one might be the one that was intended to be called Sirius. Now, of the 3 remaining Valorplates that haven't been named, we know we have a bull, we have the peacock, and the female Valorplate, which might be associated with Virgo. The meaning behind Sirius is leading me more towards the peacock inspired Valorplate, especially seeing some of the blue flames on it, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Sirius means something about the brightest star. And even though sometimes it's associated mainly with a dog or a hound, I believe that Sirius might in fact be the name for this peacock inspired Valorplate. But those are the 6 different signature weapons that we've got to look at so far. For Mesa, Silvermane, Hinterclaw, Phoenix, I will just call her the Virgo Valorplate, and then the Peacock Valorplate, potentially Sirius Valorplate. So that is 30 plus different weapons in Godfall. Like I said, in total, the devs did confirm that at launch there will be 125 weapons. So if you do the math, that's about 1/4 of the weapons already confirmed in the game. About 15 different legendaries and 15 non-legendary weapons that we've seen so far. But again, even though some of the weapons drop in different rarities, everything can be made into a legendary and be taken into in-game. So that's why I thought I should address every single weapon that we've seen so far, because even if you're not going to use it right away, chances are you might want it for a specific build, or it might come in handy later down the road. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I took a lot of time trying to find all of the different footage that showed off every different weapon in the game. I've probably missed some in a video here or there, but for the most part, I tried to gather just about everything and put it all in one video. So hopefully you all enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about all the different weapons in the game, which one is your favorite of the ones that I mentioned, and we'll talk about it in the comments section down below. So thank you all for watching. Like always, links to my social media accounts are in the video description. Be sure to leave a like if you liked the video, leave a dislike if you didn't. Link to my Discord is in the description as well, so be sure to drop by if you are interested in chatting it up, all things Godfall and all things video games. So I will catch you all on the next one. Thanks for the love, thanks for the subs, peace.